Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now today's episode, I'm going to walk you through some of the things I do to actually hedge and protect myself from banks in this game that we all play and love so much. So of course we'll talk about the reason why you want to consider this, how it works, again, some of my strategies, and more importantly, why I do this and what you can implement as well. So of course, if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, that's a pretty dramatic open. Protect yourself and hedge from banks. What am I talking about? Is this just for clicks? No, it's not just for clicks. So we're going to explain what I'm talking about first. So, banks, generally they want you to bank with, one bank, right? It's easier to have all your stuff in one place. The issue with that is that you end up, you have a single point of failure, and the failure points can be multiple, right? The bank can have a system outage. We've seen multiple banks have Zelle issues, and if you rely on Zelle, that could be a problem. We've seen Chase have actual ACH issues, I think, a while back. That could be a problem if you rely on ACH. So that's one. You could be locked out of your account for whatever reason. We're seeing more and more banks getting a little bit more sensitive when they're going to enforce the rules of know your customer and bank secrecy, which basically goes to say that banks are heavily regulated, and that's fine as someone who's worked at banks. It should be that way, but banks become hypersensitive to risk, and it's not like there's a person looking through the account. It's more so like there's just risk triggers, and everyday transactions could potentially trigger one of these, right? If they deem it, abnormal, they're not taking a risk because they could be held liable for it. And the problem is that the bank can end your banking relationship without notice whenever they want for whatever reason. They don't have to tell you the reason. In fact, they'll just mail you a letter. Some people just get notification by their digital wallet saying, hey, your credit cards are no longer connected. And you're like, what happened? Well, they shut you down. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody. More often than not, there's a reason why this happened, but you can certainly do regular things. Like maybe you had a lot of unusual spend in Vegas on your credit card over the weekend and they find that, concerning. So they shut it down or they lock it. Maybe you were sending money to a family member in another country or something. Maybe you're doing a lot more peer-to-peer payments. Maybe you got into crypto, what have you. These are all things that can potentially, get you blacklisted. Again, I'm not trying to scare anyone. They do happen. We've just seen stories about it a little bit more. I'll tell you some stories at the end of it. So this isn't go ahead and cancel your bank. This is just simply know that it could happen. And the issue, again, I don't blame banks for the risk part of it. I do blame banks for the fact how they treat you. One, I understand it's not worth their time really to, talk to you and explain these things to you, but you find yourself at the mercy of their process, which they're probably not going to disclose their process to you, because you call in customer service. Customer service isn't trained for this. They just see the note on the account and tell you the letter's coming in the mail. It's very hard to get to the person who actually handles this if anyone's ever assigned. Yes, if your account gets closed, they do have to give you your money back, and they will, but sometimes they hold on to the money for a little bit to make sure no other charges come through that they could be liable for. Then they release your money, on and on and on. Again, I'm not trying to scare anyone or be dramatic, but this is something that I actively do, right? And, as someone who's opens 50 to 70 bank accounts a year, I think I'm qualified enough to speak on this. So there's that. So what do I do here? How do I safeguard against this, right? Well, I don't feel the need to tiptoe or walk on eggshells about how I use the banking products, to be scared of bank reprisals. I'm not saying you should change the way you do it. But, again, banking is set up that they want you to have the convenience of having everything at one bank, which, again, as we covered, single point of failure. So the biggest thing I do is simply don't bank with one bank, and but it's very specific how you should do this. I call it a fallout bank, right? So we call them hub accounts, or accounts that we use to pay bills, move money around, things like that. So for me, one of my hub accounts is Chase, because it's kind of like my operating capital account. A lot of my credit cards are over with Chase, right? But I do know Chase is very sensitive to a lot of this stuff. They're one of the biggest offenders of locking accounts and shutting you down for risk-based reasons. And I'm not even talking credit cards, just like deposit accounts. So, if you have all these bill pays and stuff set up with Chase, well, all I'm saying is you would want another account. It could be Bank of America, Citi, a local credit union, ideally a fee-free account, and you would want all those bill pays set up already, mirrored over at that fallout account, that fallback location, the safe house, if you will. The reason being is because, again, you might not be notified quickly if your account gets locked or, they flagged you. A lot of times they just mail you a letter, which could take a week. So you may need to move over in a hurry and start continuing banking. Because remember, everyone you owe money to doesn't care about your issue with Chase or whoever it may be. You still owe that money. and you have no idea how the process is going to go. So it's best to just have that already set up, because it can sometimes take time to set up your bill pays to your mortgage, your auto loan, your other cards, things like that. So you keep a few $1,000s over there. Again, you can still move the money freely, so it's not like you can never touch this money or never use it for anything. It's still your money to move around and use as you want, but it's going to ensure that if this ever happens to you, you're just not out of a bank. So when you take a look at it, I say my personal operating account is Chase. My business account, my legit business account, is American Express. My Roth IRA is with Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. My mortgages are with Rocket Mortgage. My savings account is with Ally. And, I didn't necessarily set up and say I need to put every single one of these products with another bank. But the other benefits we've talked about before is you go where the best products are. So Ally's a pretty good savings account right now. At the time of taping, it's like 4%. Plus, they don't care a lot about transferring and moving money, which I do a lot of. American Express business checking was fine. I did it, long story short, I did it because it was the best option I had that didn't give up a bank account that I could churn for a bonus, which is what we talk about on the other channel. Merrill Lynch and Bank of America work for the retirement, because if you put that money over there, you get access to preferred rewards, which gives you better credit card rewards, which we have a video on. So there are other benefits of moving your stuff around. But if I get shut down in any one place, that doesn't affect all my other products. Now, again, every bank is subject to the same rules, so it's not necessarily like, oh, well, Ally's just never going to care what you do. They're under the same rules, but banks, for some reason, have different levels of sensitivity. Again, because the nature of what I do here, I move money and transfer money back and forth all the time. It's not really a brag. It's just like, hey, we got to hit these bank bonuses, right? And a lot of them, they require moving money around. Ally doesn't seem to care. Chase has locked my account numerous times. They haven't shut me down, but their fraud prevention has locked me down numerous times. And their process to get it unlocked is terrible. Sometimes they tell you, sometimes they don't. Usually requires a three-way call between you, them, and the other bank, the external bank, which is just awful. So I just don't move money from them anymore much. Now, that's the other thing. Learn the tendencies of banks as you deal with them, or to go off of data points. We know that Chase is very sensitive to this stuff, so I simply don't do transfers from Chase. Chase doesn't care. Like, I'm not sticking it to them. They could care less, but I just don't want to go through the headache, so I have an account for that. Pretty simple. Now, that's the biggest one. Now, in addition, there are some other small things. I would say, number one, know how your employer's direct deposit works and how it's updated, because, again, you're probably going to have it, set to your Chase personal account in this case, because it's, my operating account. But if you get locked out there, you don't want to send the money there, because they might take it in or they might reject it. But either way, you might not be able to get it, or it's going to take a while until it gets rejected back to the employer and back to the next account. So if that happens, you need to be prepared to move your direct deposit to another bank. Most places aren't cutting checks, so you really have to have another account set up, hence the fallout account. That's another good one. I also like to carry at least 2 credit cards, one from different issuers, right? So we'll go through the wallet here. I have, I've got like a Chase Sapphire card there that I'm working on an intro offer for. And then even though all my spend's going to go on that, I still have my double cash card. And the reason is, if I was ever to get into a dispute with Chase randomly, well, then you'd be out with no card at all, which wouldn't be good. So you could call that one a quirk if you want. In addition, you saw the cash come out. Funny enough, I'm getting a haircut, and my barber only takes cash. So this money is just to pay him. But if you see, here, I actually carry, it gets stuck. I carry cash as well. Yes, I tell you to use credit cards all the time. Me personally, I try to at least carry $100 because it just gets you out of a jam. Sometimes you need hush money, I think carrying cash is good. And then I would also say the thing I also do is I keep cash on hand at home. How much? Whatever that means to you. I don't think you should be storing $10,000 in cash by any means. But again, in the scenario we're going for, do you ever want to not have access to your money? You should always have some cash at home. Put it in a safe where you put the watches at or whatever, I'm talking like a few $1,000s max. I don't think you need to get crazy with it, whatever that means to you, right? But generally, those are some things I do to kind of safeguard myself against from sensitive banks, things like that. Now, some quick stories here. I tend to complain a lot less because, well, I know the game we're playing, and sometimes the game we're playing does look suspicious, right? So, one example was certain bank bonuses require you to spend a lot of money on their business debit card. And certain neo fintech banks allow you to fund accounts continuously with a debit card. So I was doing that, and it worked for the bonus. And then the bank, it was Juno, I think, they shut me down. I didn't even complain. I didn't really care about the Juno account, but they were correct, because funding it with a debit card and then moving that money out is suspicious, and that's kind of what they said in the email. So I understand some of the stuff we do. Like Ally, I've always been surprised they don't care that, I'll set up an automated transfer to, we'll have a Laurel Road, I think it is. If you deposit $2,500 a month, they'll give you $20 for the first year. You can do that 12 times. So I'll have a deposit from Laurel Road, $2,500. Then like a few days later, I'll pull the same $2,500 back. That's kind of suspicious. I would see their point if they got mad about it. So I tend not to complain too much, and I could be over reacting a little bit because the nature of what we do here. But even if you don't do this game, again, we've seen regular people through regular transactions automatically trip, these risk tolerances. So again, the point is not to scare you, but the point is like, hey, I don't feel comfortable just banking every single thing at one bank. So these are the things that I actively do to kind of be covered. I mean, I think this is more than enough. Again, we're not doing anything illegal by any means here. They write the terms and conditions. But again, this is more than enough. In addition to that, we've talked about de-risking before. So if you have a ton of rewards points at one bank, by all means, you should de-risk there as well. Cash them in. If they're cash back, cash them in at least once a year. Miles a little bit different, but still, I would de-risk. I don't, even though, yes, cash is, insured up to $250,000, I still don't like to put in too much money with any one bank unless I'm going after a bank promotion. So I'm like, gosh, what if I get locked out, or what if they flag one of these things? So I just like to de-risk and have it spread out. But that's just me. So, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Let me know down below if this one is a bit too far as conspiracy theory, Fallout Shelter guy, or do you agree with me, and what other strategies do you use? How could we strengthen this game up even more? I'd love to get your thoughts. Of course, if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel, because again, we're posting content just like this, less doomsday usually, but generally just like this every single week. And of course, right back every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that wasn't credit and finance. And of course, we have profitablecontent.com, where we have the latest news stories, bank bonuses, and credit card offers. So if you need a new product, by all means, check that out, because you should always be paid to open a banking product. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching, and talk to you very soon in the next one.